There is something sacred about a woman who walks alone. Not because she chose loneliness, but because heaven chose her for something greater. You see, when God has a special assignment for someone, he does not speak in crowds. He whispers in solitude. God never begins a great work in noise. When he called Moses, it was in the wilderness. When he prepared Joseph, it was in the pit and the prison. When he anointed David, it was away from his brothers tending sheep. And when he whispers to a woman who walks alone, it's because she carries a divine design that cannot be formed in the presence of many. Aloneness is not a curse. It is a calling. God separates before he elevates. He pulls you away not to punish you, but to preserve what he is planting in you. The woman who walks alone is not unloved. She is being protected. She is not redirected. She is not redirected. She is being redirected. You cannot hear destiny's instructions over the noise of the crowd. That's why God calls her away. You wonder why friends faded, why people didn't understand your heart, why relationships couldn't stay. It's because God wanted you to hear him without interference. He's been whispering strategies, visions, healing, and identity. The whisper is not empty. It's a download of purpose. In your quiet, he is loud. In your tears, he is teaching. In your questions, he is shaping the answers. That lonely path you walk is the very place your character is being forged, your faith is being tested, and your voice is being prepared. The world cannot receive what hasn't been processed. And God processes his leaders in private before he presents them in public. You are not walking alone. You are walking ahead. You are not behind. You are being positioned. And when the time is right, the same people who misunderstood your silence will witness your emergence. Because the woman who walks alone, he whispers not just to comfort you, but to commission you. What he says in your midnight will bless others in their daylight. What he reveals in the valley will make sense on the mountain. Your pain has a purpose. Your silence has a sound. Your aloneness has an assignment. Don't despise this season. Embrace it. Protect it. Steward it. Because you are not just being set apart, you are being set above. You are being prepared to be a voice in a world full of echoes. The woman who walks alone today will lead nations tomorrow, not because she had many behind her, but because she had one who walked beside her. Aloneness is not abandonment, it's preparation. Many misunderstand the silence of a season as rejection, but in truth, it is often God's method of refinement. When God desires to use someone powerfully, he first pulls them away from the noise, the expectations, and the distractions. It's in the place of separation that clarity is born. God is never in a hurry with purpose, because what he builds in secret is designed to last in public. Aloneness is not about being forgotten, it is about being formed. In this sacred space, character is built. The noise of relationships, the demands of society, the opinions of others, they all blur the voice of purpose. So God separates a person not to isolate them, but to insulate them for what's coming. He clears the room so he can speak clearly. This aloneness is an invitation to intimacy, not a sentence of exile. It is the environment where vision matures and identity is strengthened. And there's no one else around to validate you. You learn to hear the only voice that matters. Many of the greatest callings begin in quiet corners. Before David ruled the kingdom, he was alone with sheep. Before Esther saved a nation, she was isolated in preparation. Before Jesus launched his ministry, he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, alone. Aloneness is not punishment. It is a proving ground. It removes the false comforts and reveals what truly anchors you. Oh, God is not ignoring you in your solitude. He is investing in you. What feels like stillness is strategy. What seems like delay is divine development. You are not being set aside. You are being set apart. In the hands of God, aloneness is never wasted. It is the womb of greatness. Solitude is the sanctuary of revelation. It is in the stillness, away from the noise of people, the pressure of opinions, and the distractions of daily life, that God begins to speak clearly. When everything around you is quiet, your spirit becomes sensitive. Your ears, once dull from the clamor of the world, begin to tune in to the divine frequency. Solitude is not just a break from others. It is an invitation into the presence of God, where revelation flows without interruption. God does not compete for attention. He waits until the noise dies down, until the heart becomes still, until the soul is ready to listen. It was in the solitude of Mount Sinai that Moses received the 10 Commandments. It was in the quiet cave that Elijah heard the still, small voice. It was in the wilderness that John the Baptist was prepared as a voice crying out. Revelation comes to those who are willing to step away, to shut the door, to be alone, not for isolation's sake, but for divine encounter. In solitude, God doesn't just speak to you, he reveals you. He uncovers hidden wounds, confronts buried fears, and awakens dormant gifts. The silence becomes a mirror where the soul is laid bare and the truth becomes unavoidable. It's where purpose is clarified, direction is given, and the mysteries of heaven are whispered into the heart. Many avoid solitude because they fear being alone. But what they are really avoiding is the confrontation of becoming. Yet, it is only in that sanctuary that true transformation begins. Solitude is not empty. It is full of divine presence, full of truth, full of power. Those who dwell in it come out with eyes that see differently, ears that hear clearly, and a heart that beats in rhythm with heaven. Purpose is refined in isolation. It is in the hidden places where no applause is heard and no audience is present that destiny is stripped of ego and clothed in authenticity. God often removes the scaffolding of people and platforms so that what remains is the pure foundation of who you are and why you were created. Isolation is not a punishment, it is a furnace. And in that furnace, purpose is purified. When you are alone, distractions fall away. The expectations of others no longer dictate your direction. The noise of opinions no longer clouds your mind. In that sacred space, you begin to see who you really are without the roles you perform or the masks you wear. God uses isolation to remove what you were never meant to carry and to restore what the world tried to bury. In the absence of affirmation, you learn to rely on conviction. In the absence of company, you discover capacity. Purpose that is not tested in isolation becomes fragile in public. That's why God hides his greatest vassals before he reveals them. Like a seed planted in the dark, purpose must be buried before it can bloom. In isolation, your vision is sharpened, your motives are examined, your faith is stretched. You learn the difference between ambition and assignment, between calling and convenience. The woman who walks through the wilderness with God comes out with more than survival. She comes out with strategy. She learns that true purpose is not about being seen, but about being sent. It is not about impressing others, but about impacting them. And when the time of revealing comes, her voice will carry the weight of wisdom forged in silence, and her steps will echo with the authority of one who has walked alone with God and come out refined. Walking alone cultivates discernment. When you are removed from the noise of constant company, you begin to hear with spiritual ears and see with spiritual eyes. Discernment. In the quiet of walking alone, you begin to recognize what is true, what is necessary, and what is divine. The absence of distraction sharpens your perception. You no longer respond to surface level emotions. You begin to sense deeper truths. When you walk alone, you're no longer guided by the opinions of others. You stop seeking validation and start listening for revelation. In this space, the Spirit of God becomes your primary teacher. You learn to test what is spoken, to weigh what is offered, and to sense the motives that are often hidden. It is here that your spiritual instincts are awakened. Discernment isn't just knowing the difference between right and wrong. It's knowing the difference between right and almost right. And that level of clarity only comes when your soul is still and your spirit is alert. Jesus often withdrew to solitary places, not because he needed isolation, but because discernment required alignment. The woman who walks alone learns to observe in the spirit. She stops chasing connections and starts cultivating convictions. She sees beyond smiles. She hears beyond words. She senses what others ignore. This kind of discernment protects her future. It saves her from relationships that look good but are not sent. It helps her make decisions that align with purpose, not pressure. The woman who has walked alone with God cannot be easily deceived because she has been trained in the silence, refined in the absence, and empowered by the presence of the one who never lies. Her solitude has taught her to trust the still, small voice above every loud opinion. The whispers are blueprints for divine assignment. God rarely shouts. He often speaks in stillness, in the quiet chambers of a heart that has been separated for purpose. When a woman walks alone, she is not simply passing through a lonely season. She is being positioned to receive sacred instruction. The whispers she hears are not empty encouragements. They are divine downloads, specific, intentional, and weighty. They are not meant for the crowd. They are entrusted to the called. Every great assignment begins with a whisper. Noah heard the instructions for an ark long before rain was ever seen. Abraham received direction for a nation while standing alone under the stars. Mary carried the word made flesh after receiving one whispered message from an angel. God does not speak in depth to those who are not willing to dwell in stillness. He releases blueprints to those who can be trusted with the silence. These whispers are more than comfort. They are construction plans for destiny. They come with timing, strategy, and warning. They reveal not just what to do, but who you must become in order to carry it. In the secret place, God sketches the design of your next season. He outlines relationships to prune, disciplines to embrace, and doors to expect. What he says in the dark becomes the light you walk in. The woman who honors the whisper becomes a steward of God's intent. She doesn't rush the process or broadcast prematurely. She understands that what is spoken in the sacred must be protected until it is ready to be shown. Her obedience to the whisper births movements, shifts atmospheres, and transforms lives. The whisper she receives in isolation become the loud impact of her public obedience. That is how God operates, not through noise, but through a quiet voice that carries the weight of eternal purpose. Separation births consecration. When God calls someone to himself, he often begins by calling them away from people, from places, from patterns. Separation is never random in the kingdom. it is intentional. It is heaven's way of declaring, you are mine. To be consecrated means to be set apart for divine use. And before something can be set apart, it must first be removed from the common. This is why God separates before he anoints, why he isolates before he elevates. In seasons of separation, the familiar is stripped away. What once brought comfort no longer satisfies. The people who once walked closely may begin to drift. But this is not rejection, it is redirection. God is cleansing the space around you so he can fill it with himself. Consecration is not just about what you do for God, it's about who you become with God. It is a deep work of alignment where your heart is purified, your motives examined, and your vision sanctified. The woman who experiences divine separation begins to crave different things. Her appetite shifts. Her desires mature. The things that once distracted her now disturb her spirit. This is not because she is better than others, but because she is being called to something higher. She is being prepared to carry something holy, and holy things cannot rest in cluttered places. God separates in order to sanctify. It calls your way to renew your mind, to refine your character, and to restore your identity. Consecration is not a title, it's a posture. It is the result of walking alone with God long enough that the world loses its grip and heaven gains your attention. The woman who embraces her separation discovers that she has not lost anything. She has been chosen for everything. She's not empty, she's ready. Ready to carry what others can't, to endure what others won't, and to become what others were never willing to be. The woman who walks alone becomes the voice for many. What she endures in silence becomes strength for those who are still struggling to find their voice. Her journey, marked by quiet steps and unseen battles, is not wasted. It is woven into the fabric of her calling. She did not walk alone for nothing. She walked alone to learn what can only be taught by God himself. And now what she carries is not just personal, it's prophetic. Her story becomes a roadmap. Her scars become sermons. Her wounds become wisdom. She speaks not from theory, but from testimony. Her authority is not borrowed, it's earned in the secret place. While others were busy being seen, she was busy being shaped. While others chased applause, she chased God. And now, when she speaks, something shifts. Her words cut through confusion because they come from a place of clarity. Her presence carries weight, not because of who noticed her, but because of who formed her. The woman who walks alone becomes a mouthpiece for healing. She becomes a safe place for the broken, a guide for the lost, a pillar for the weary. She doesn't speak to impress, she speaks to impart. The silence she once resented has now given birth to a voice that cannot be ignored. And that voice, born in the wilderness, carries the fragrance of heaven. It convicts, it uplifts, it awakens. She becomes the voice not because she wanted a platform, but because she stewarded her pain in the presence of God. She becomes the voice because she refused to let loneliness become bitterness. She became the voice because she listened first, listened to the whispers, the corrections, the revelations. And now her voice doesn't just echo, it builds, it creates, it restores, because it came from the mouth of one who once walked alone, but now walks in purpose. So to the woman who walks alone, do not despise your path, for it is holy ground. You are not forgotten. You are being forged. You are not abandoned. You are being appointed. In your solitude, God is not silent. He is strategic. He is whispering things into your spirit that generations will one day thank you for. What feels like isolation is really incubation. What seems like delay is divine design. You are walking with God, and that is enough. You are being shaped for impact, trained for influence, and consecrated for kingdom assignment. When the time is right, the world will hear the sound of a voice that was born in silence, a voice that carries the weight of wisdom, the purity of purpose, and the fire of obedience. Don't rush this season. Don't curse it. Steward it. Because the woman who walks alone today will rise as the woman God uses tomorrow. And when she speaks, hell will tremble, heaven will rejoice, and generations will remember. This is what it looks like when a woman walks with God. Alone, but never forsaken. Set apart, but never forgotten. Hidden, but only for a moment. For when she rises, she will not rise alone. She will rise carrying destiny.